Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings a bell and the members show to the GMP morning show.
Hola Bom Dia ALEGRIA, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and podcast. How are you? I had the most amazing weekend. There's so much to tell you, and actually so much to squeeze in today here on the Good Morning Portugal show, starting with the Bom Dia Daily. The big news is that we are starting a Good Morning Portugal Preparedness Week, Portugal Preparedness Week. Preparedness makes it sound biblical, but getting prepared for the rest of your life in Portugal, essentially, and reducing friction. Who doesn't like to reduce friction first thing in the morning here on the Good Morning Portugal show with me, Carl Munson? How are you doing? Great to see you here. Tidak, Bom Dia ALEGRIA, Gumpers. Coach Turner also in. Bom Dia, Gumpers. E feliz segunda, como está? Child wrangling all day today as it's the Easter holidays. Ooh, so I might need a glass of wine this evening. Have a fantastic day, everyone. You too, Coach T. See you on Friday. You're playing a vital part in our Portugal preparedness, obviously from the growing old disgracefully angle. So you're going to lube our experience. Yes, but I wouldn't put it exactly like that, T-Duck, honestly. Bom dia, Portugal, from João Ernesto, PT Countryman Marcus. How you doing? Bom dia from you. Just before show start time, as well as Sarah Yerman. Good morning to you, Sarah. Remarkable things coming from Setúbal, which I will address this morning. A fantastic concept, which is basically the genesis for me, the inspiration for me for going into this preparedness week. Actually, which started as an April Fool's joke and has snowballed and developed into something amazing since I first started, well, to make a joke about it. And then it's become something which I think could be quite profound and useful to this community and anyone thinking of moving to Portugal. So good morning to you. We'll get into that. And we'll also, I just want to say a few hellos and thank yous to everybody who was at the Coimbra weekend. It was absolutely brilliant. And I do have some photographs, far too many. Might have to make a little collage or something else with those. Other graphics to bring onto the screen today, including Portuguese Bird of the Week. Wasn't that a lovely feature that we kicked off last week with the blackbird? I'm not sure what James has in store for us this week with his Portuguese Bird of the Week. There's the female of the species, and then random pictures of other birds came in as well. That was from Pam, I think. That's Nazaré, isn't it? Looking down on the beach at Nazaré. So get your bird pics in and your nominations for Bird of the Week that we'll do with James when he joins me at 8:20. And Raquelita Fantastica. Do you remember her, the comedian who joined us last month? She's not feeling very well, so all the best to you. She would have ordinarily joined us this morning. Raquelita Fantastica. She's in bloody agony again today. So she's got a bad back, and she will be hopefully joining us in the future, but not today. So I wish you the best, Raquelita, Rachel, and I hope your back gets better soon, and that we see you on this screen as well again sometime soon. As melhores, amiga. Also joining us now, Hugh. Yes, Hugh, one of the people I saw yesterday. It was great to see you, Hugh. And thank you for your incredible contribution to what's shaping up as the GLAD resources, growing, living, aging and dying well here in Portugal. Morning, great lunch, yes. Delightful to be your wine mule as well. Very happy to do that. The wine is safely back here in San Martino de Porto and will be handed over to Colin's Grubby Mitts, I think, later on this week. So, yeah, good to see you. It was, yeah, the lunch was great. You came for the lunch. Let me just rewind a little bit. On Saturday morning, I took the coach to Coimbra. You will have heard on Friday that we were meeting up with a number of Expats Portugal community members in Coimbra. Philomena was going to give us a tour. She did that beautifully. And it's a very special thing for her, of course, because that's where she was born and educated and studied languages, English and German. And to become the wonderful inspiration and teacher that she is today. She has had a profession of being a teacher in secondary school in Miranda de Corvo, and now, of course, teaches expats, foreigners, how to speak Portuguese. Great to see her and her obvious love of her city and her university. And then, oh my goodness, if you get the chance to go, I'm wondering if I can share any photos at all, if they've downloaded from my phone to Google Photos. The best photos I could have shared with you, actually. Oh, that's a good one to share. That's a very good one to share. I'm going to ask you who was wearing this T-shirt this weekend. He had quite the costume on when we met him this weekend. I must remember not to talk too much about the weekend, but also to talk about Portugal Preparedness Week, which will climax with a fabulous party this weekend in San Martino de Porto. The Preppers Party, we could call it. What else have I got over there on my photo deck? That's a fabulous T-shirt, it has to be said. Empty plates, bottles of wine, Daniel Reis being embraced by Neptune, a medieval-looking toilet, the head reconstruction of King Joao as well. Yes, actually, far too many pictures. I need to knit a little collage together. Oh, I think I'll do outfits. I'll do outfits because there were some fabulous outfits, and it was a real delight to wear Philomena's cape. She let me wear her cape. A couple of bits of apparel to share with you then, at least. But the greatest photos and video I could have shared with you would have been of the Joaninha library. It was out of this world. You're not allowed to take photographs in there. It was the climax of our tour. We had a tour of the university, of the library, of the old prison, of the new library, of the doctorate confirmation hall. I don't know if it's officially called that. It was a royal palace before it became a university. It's an exquisite visit. And I don't know if you did that, Coach Turner, when you were there. You recognize some of the pictures that I posted up. Actually, I can do a little bit of a video. I can show you a bit of a video of where we were. That's something I posted up onto the YouTube channel yesterday. This will give you a general gist then of where we were, and I'll tell you a bit more about it afterwards. That's after it's loaded up, of course. Far easier to upload Bird of the Week from last week. No sooner had we chosen the blackbird, I was in Lisbon Zoo, among many exotic animals, and then a rather prosaic, but no less poetic in many ways, and delightful, romantic, and delicious bird song came upon me, or was near me, as I was making the cable car trip. Remember me telling you about the terrifying cable car trip? But at the top there, a little blessing in adversity was this blackbird song, and then we'll go back to Coimbra in just a moment. Beautiful. Oh, blackbird. That was some added value at the zoo. Not part of the admission price, I don't think, but just it suspended our terror for a moment. Isn't it amazing how your state can change as you're distracted? And I was distracted by a beautiful bird song there. Here's Coimbra then from yesterday as well. So you might have seen that prasa from other people's sharing of video from Coimbra, but we went inside the building and we saw the Royal Palace and we saw the library. Please go. It is the most. Have a weekend in Coimbra and make sure if you can get the guided tour with Patricia, who gave us our tour. You have a little. There are a lot of people. There must have been nearly 50 people from Expats Portugal's community who we were hanging out with on the Saturday. We had a tour on the bus with Filomena, and then we were handed over to Patricia, and we understood why there were pieces of male clothing tied to the gates of the university. Some very interesting traditions and institutions that have been created there. And if you can get the tour with Patricia, She's amazing. She's incredible. She has a sort of beautiful BBC enunciation, and obviously fluent Portuguese as well. She's Portuguese, but she speaks like a BBC announcer. And you have these little radios around your neck, and you plug in your headphones, and she gives you a tour, which is a really brilliant bit of technology. And her information, her guidance, her insight into the Royal Palace and the university and ultimately the library, off the scale. I mean, it blew my mind. I've been to Coimbra so many times, but I hadn't been into those buildings. And Philip was telling me off. So was Lucy. So you haven't been in here. What? You haven't been in here? Oh my God, Carl. And they were right. It was a serious omission on my part not to have gone into the library, to have gone into the Royal Palace until this weekend. So thank you, Expats Portugal, for doing that. Thanks, Wilhelmina. Thanks, Patricia, and all the lovely company over the weekend. Wonderful people who I was hanging out with. And Villa Gale Hotel, very nice too, staying there. I was able to get the bus from the end of my street in San Martino de Porto, get off the bus and walk less than 5 minutes to the hotel. It was superb. And yeah, then Ben's lunch yesterday, Man Cave guys were there. And then we went to the Epicura Brewery and back here yesterday evening in San Martino de Porto. It was a superb weekend and delightful to see so many wonderful people, meet new people and find out about amazing projects and where people are living and wonderful things and their plans to move to Portugal. It was a superb weekend and great to be back in this chair this morning. News just in from João Ernesto de Norte. Parabéns, Rory McIlroy, on his Masters win, on his 11th attempt. There were a few golf fans there yesterday. Hi, Sanjay. Hi, David, who were tuned into that over the weekend. To some, success comes easily, but the example of perseverance over failure over and over again is so inspiring. So well done, Rory McIlroy, on your, is that the, the Masters win there. Bom dia from Dublin. Look at that, in the land of Rory McIlroy. Bom dia from Dublin, from Mike and Karen family there having a look in Ireland. Bom dia from Pam as well. I went to Porto. Oh, Porto de Mos yesterday to see the beautiful floral carpets for Palm Sunday. Okay, there. Any photos, Pam? Always worth a visit. Oh, thank you. You sent me a short video. Let's play that later on. And yes, have a great day, everyone. We're off for a tour of Trinity College this morning. How superb is that? Well done, Mike and Karen. Excellent stuff. Okay, before James gets here, I would like to talk to you more then on day one of Portugal Preparedness Week. It did start as a joke. Do you remember the Portuguese positivity party that I wrote about on the 1st of April? And a jolly wheeze it was too. And it was also, I had a little bit of a chance to have a go at the EU and their warmongering and fearmongering and telling people to get shortwave radios. For goodness sake, shortwave radio. I created a Portuguese version of the 3-day disaster survival kit, as suggested by the Portuguese Positivity Party, which doesn't actually exist, but it included a fully charged phone, downloaded Pimba music, bread, cured meat and cheese, and wine, lots of wine, and a reminder there to vote PPP, which doesn't actually exist, but people quite liked and thought was a good idea anyway. So, okay, that's how it started. And it's sort of Portuguese prepping there for the apocalypse and the horrible way, basically, that the EU framed it. And then I was talking about this to Josh at the men's shed in San Martino de Porto that we do every Wednesday evening. And he told me about living, aging and dying well, a group, an endeavor that he was part of in Caldas da Rainha. And the genesis of that is a wonderful woman, a founder, who I shall say more about after I've met her, hopefully this week. And I was very taken by this idea. And it brings together a lot of things that I've been interested in and want to talk about and want to share share with people and create resources around. It brings a lot of threads together that we have talked about as a community over the last few years. And the incredible friendships, basically, that I've formed with people who've come to Portugal in the last 5 years as well. And different areas that don't get talked about so much because they are, let's face it, a little bit difficult. But there are ways to go about doing this that are, somewhat more positive and dynamic and practical than others. And as James hilariously said, that's a great idea. I don't want to talk about it. That's fair enough for those who don't. But I will be having these conversations with anybody who wants to have them. A great inspiration is this adorable community for aging and dying well. And I believe the founder has now moved to this area. But let me tell you, this is an active group for Setúbal, and some of you might already know about it. I was quite surprised that I didn't. The Setúbal community for aging and dying well was formed to ensure that our yeah, let's get away from dire to desire, shall we? Was formed to ensure that our desires for optimal health and a reverent and peaceful death are honoured. Hence my reframing of this endeavour: resources for the rest of your life here in Portugal. That's what the Portugal Club's going to be about, resources for the rest of your life in Portugal. And I know it can seem a little bit macabre, but what's the alternative? The alternative is not to consider it and to find yourself possibly, or for your loved ones to find themselves in a pretty pass. Bear with me. So optimal health, so it's not just the death bit, the Grim Reaper, but also what's the opposite of the Grim Reaper? Growing old disgracefully, Coach Turner, right? Not suggesting you're the Grim Reaper. You're quite the opposite, as the harbinger of good health, right? Optimal health and a reverent and peaceful death are honoured. And so that's what the Setúbal community for aging and dying well are all about. To that end, our goals are for members of our community too. And these are their bullet points, which I'm delighted to learn about and want to riff upon, and we'll be talking to the founder this week. To know what health and rehabilitation resources are available to us within Setúbal and the surrounding areas. And obviously, I would like to make this Portugal-wide and certainly have a focus for it in the Silver Coast here. And just talking to somebody yesterday, the wonderful Adelia, who gave me a lift home, she told me about a service where you can get a visit from an English-speaking doctor to your home in Caldas de Rainha and the West Coast, Silver Coast East Coast. West Coast here, and the Silver Coast area. A service I didn't know about. English-speaking doctors who will come to your home and do examinations and give you certificates and stuff like that. So it's interesting. Starting the conversation, opening up the conversation brings the most extraordinary results. They also want to have a clearly articulated plan in case of an emergency that renders us unable to advocate for ourselves. And in these conversations, talking to Hugh yesterday, he carries around an amazing laminated card that is his living will, his instructions should he find himself in an unfortunate situation. And through this, I found out about the Estua key bracelet as well. So as well as having a clearly articulated plan in case of an emergency that renders us unable to advocate for ourselves, have peace of mind that our human, animal, structural and financial resources are protected after our death. Good to know and good to investigate the conversation, if you like, or the conversation with bunny ears. Know there is a network of companions who will support us in our activities of daily living if we experience an illness that limits our independence. Good. No, we will not die alone, and that our wishes for a good death are honoured when our journey includes actively dying. And Hugh said to me yesterday, we should be able to die in our own beds. Wouldn't that be a great thing, rather than languishing and suffering in a foreign hospital, perhaps? Our initial efforts towards these goals include creating a checklist that can be used to begin putting documents in place in case of an emergency. We talked about that recently, didn't we? And notarized copies that you can get from the post office. I talked to Gilda about that on the Dream Team session last Thursday. Lots of really useful information, thinking about things that we might not ordinarily think about and getting our ducks in a row, as it were. Dotting the I's, crossing the T's. Organising an educational presentation on creating a will in Portugal. That was they've already done that. They did that, I think, in Caldas de Rainha. We will revisit that territory. Creating a living wills that revert to your original native will in your country of origin. That's important. That's very important. So as not to leave those who are your relatives in your wake, as it were, literally, in difficulty. Getting that preparation done. So we'll revisit that with them as well. And establishing this Facebook community, and then he said face ache, didn't I? Focused on strengthening community support for those in need. And I know we're very capable of doing that here as the Gumper community as well. So well done, Setúbal community for aging and dying well. And Amelie, who I'm looking forward to meeting soon. And yes, how you can contribute, they suggest in their group, and I'm sure we're capable of doing this here across all of Portugal, and for people to consider this upon their move to Portugal. Volunteer to support the work in your area of passion and purpose. Share your work or share our work, your work with others who may not be on Facebook, an increasing number of people. Share resources that enable our community members to age in place and die well. Tell us what we're missing, and that should be included. They are great pointers. It's such a good idea. Well done to the 335 members who are part of the Setúbal community for aging and dying well. Wonderful stuff. At 8:20, then, we will bring on the old guy in Europe, but not unlike last week where I just unceremoniously dumped him onto the screen. Hit that music, play that music, funky, play that funky music, white boy, I should be saying to myself. You can hear the guitar being slapped, can't you? As the intro of that tune. That was a floor filler at the last party I DJ'd at. We'll do that again, I suspect, this coming Saturday for the big preppers party at the end of Portugal Preparedness Week. But for now, let's bring him onto the screen, the old guy in Europe, after this music.
Bom dia!
Olá, bom dia, tudo bem?
Sim, tudo. Contigo?
Well, you know what my answer's going to be.
Cansada.
The sort of weekend I've had. I am a little bit tired. I'm poco cansado, but extremely inspired and energized by a fabulous weekend. Look, Philomena's here. You were mentioned, James, and your excellent grasp of the language. Who doesn't like an excellent grasp first thing?
Yeah, I'm getting a little worried because she's giving me a lot of credit for what I don't think I have. So
you got to live up to that, mate. Hola, James.
I'm trying. Hola, Philomena.
So, yes.
I do study, and pronunciation is important to me, but I can't even. Well, I can if I really work at it, speak sentences, but I have to really formulate them in my head and work them out and say them slowly. And it's a long process, but I'm getting there.
There is a lovely meme that I saw about that, which I should try and bring onto the screen this morning. It was hilarious about how that process takes place in your mind. Yes, I found it. So how this beautifully conveys what I think you just said, and what is a condition familiar to many of us. So you start with the best of intentions, don't you? You're formulating a sentence in your mind, and you know how you will wow the person you're about to speak to, whether it be in a government office or your neighbor, and then you open your mouth and it starts to come out. And it's like this. A beautifully executed horse on the left. By the time it comes out,
horse.
A wonky kid's drawing. That's hilarious, isn't it? I like. Yes. I don't know who created that and who to give credit to. But that's how we roll. Yes, I think so.
Well, and I have a go-to, and when I remember, well, it's almost automatic now, but I almost always start in Portuguese saying, I'm sorry, I only speak a little Portuguese. And then I'll follow that with, but I'm learning. And then usually I get kind of a chuckle or a laugh. So good.
Pat on the head, yeah.
But every once in a while, I'm in the middle of trying to get something done. Like yesterday at the grocery store, I was at the self-checkout, and it's like every time something different doesn't work. So I need assistance. Part of the reason I go there is I can sort my stuff anyway. I have my way of doing it, and then boop, it doesn't work, or something I can't figure out. So yesterday I was so into trying to figure this out and getting confused, and my brain was in like 5 different places already, and I didn't even turn to ask for help. She just heard the machine saying the same thing over and over and over. Well, I'm trying to work it out. So she came over, and I just sort of mumbled a couple words in English, like, the bread or something like that. So I wasn't ready to set myself up as someone who is learning the language and making an effort to speak the language. I showed up as a confused old guy who could only speak English and couldn't figure out the stupid checkout, that sort of thing. So I was like, okay, well, and that doesn't happen often, but that's one of the situations where I highly recommend having at least 2 or 3 sentences memorized that you practice over and over so they come more automatically, to just kind of ease some of the language tension that could potentially show up.
Yeah,
So when I say, desculpe, só falo pouco português, mas estou a aprender, it's like, oh, okay, thanks for trying. That was really good. And then they say something back to me in Portuguese. You got to go, okay. I heard, like that. So it's, I know it's going to take a while. I'm still finding my ear. And part of that is vocabulary. It's just not sufficient enough. There's too many words I don't know. So even if I hear them, I don't know I'm hearing them. So it's going to take a while.
Interesting. Yes. Yeah. We're not always entirely sure what we're hearing, are we? And yes, but keep going. I mean, you are being encouraged here this morning. Gabby, I think resonates. Good morning to you, Gabby, with what you're talking about. And the only way you've already got advice here. The only way that process becomes natural, generating sentences, is practice, lots of practice. Absolutely right. That makes complete sense, doesn't it?
Practice.
However,
and repetition.
you are getting a stern telling off from Hugh. Never use the auto checkout. Maintain the manual checkout and pay cash only. He's standing for cash there. Sometimes it makes sense.
You can pay cash at the self checkout, so I don't know what the issue is.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. I didn't know that. I thought you could only use cards on the.
They have both, at least at the.
Very good. Very good. Okay. All right. Did you say continent?
Yes, continent.
I was able to crack a joke about continent yesterday. I think it was Jerry who said to me, "Did you know seagulls are in continent?" He said, "Did you know?" We'll get on to bird of the week after this, obviously.
Perfect.
Did you know seagulls? Did you know seagulls are in continent? And I said, "Are they in Intermarché as well?" There was a massive groan at the table for some reason. But anyway.
Well, you didn't hear it, but it was kind of like gas. It was a groan inside me.
It was kind of like gas.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, it was very popular bird of the week last week, and I encountered a blackbird soon afterwards at the zoo. Funnily enough, of all places.
Yeah.
Before we go there, is that everything you want to say about learning the language and your week this week, James, since we last saw you?
Yeah, my week this week has been, pretty much as it has been for the month that I've been here. I'm really enjoying it. I am definitely walking more. I discovered on my Strava exercise app that in the past month, have walked 50 kilometers. Which was about nearly 50 kilometers more than I had walked in the previous probably 3 to 6 months before moving here. So,
yes, well done.
Yeah. So that's it's great to know that. It gets me out, which I intend to do, but it's really easy to stay in because I don't have anything that forces me out. I'm running into more bureaucratic, incredibly frustrating situations, just trying to change my address for my residency card. I can't, anyway, I won't go into that, but I'm still working on that one. It's like, it should be so incredibly simple. You should be able to just go to a page, give it your information, verify somehow, that you are who you are, and be done with it, or make a simple appointment to the local IMA office or whatever. But it's not that simple. I struggle just to figure out how to find a place to make an appointment. That kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Well, if somebody can help with suggestions,
it's logistics and other things. I waited an hour and a half in line. I said, I'll just go to the office and then get it done. So I did that. Waited an hour and a half. Finally got inside because they were averaging about 10 minutes per person. I had 8 people in front of me, so it was a long wait. Got inside. I explained to her that I don't speak much Portuguese, but I'm learning, and we'll give it a go. And she responded in Portuguese, and so I'm doing my visual cues and trying to hear words and all that going with it. And she asked for my residency card, and and then she said, "Oh, no. I don't know what she was looking at on the card, because basically what she ended up telling me is I can't do it there.
Yeah.
You can't do that here without an appointment."
Oh yes, yeah, that's right. I've heard that.
But I'm here. I waited in line. It's my turn, but I don't have an appointment, so you can't do it.
Well, I heard the same story, James, this week. A friend in Caldash went to a government office and was told the same thing. You don't have an appointment. But the funny thing was they stayed for another half hour talking about other things and laughing and joking. And this friend said, well, I've been here like 20, 30 minutes now. Can't we just do what I came here to do? And the answer was no, because you haven't got an appointment.
You need an appointment. It's like, okay. And I mean, I always assume there's a good reason for the policy. And my guess is that typically someone comes in with the residency card and says, I want to change my address, and they don't have any of the documentation they need to get that done.
Yes.
So they figure, okay, well, we'll make them have an appointment, and then maybe with that, it will instruct them what to bring. But I had all the documentation. I'd done the research online. I knew what they needed. I had everything plus in my little carry folder. But that didn't do me any good. So
you are getting some responses, James. Send a registered letter with a return receipt, possibly. Or where did you go? Finances or IRN?
I went to the old CEF, the IMA office, directly to the
Yes.
I was directly there, and it's not every town or village has an IMA office in it. Spinu does, so I was able to go to the office to do it.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is don't work. I've spent 3 or 4 hours trying to figure this out. It's not just all you have to do is.
Well, then, there could be something you haven't thought of, possibly from out of left field. Let's see if any of these suggestions do suddenly have the penny drop. The end of the story I was telling you about, you need an appointment from this other friend in Caldash, was, or the rationale, as you put it, there must be a reason. Was, if I do this for you, I'll have to do it for everyone. Which I mean, it's an old chestnut, an old bureaucratic chestnut, that isn't it?
Which is why we have the policy, because we couldn't do it for everyone. That was slowing things down. It was, whatever. We made this policy that says you have to have an appointment to do this. So if I make an exception for you, and then it goes to the next level. If I make an exception for you, then the next person that shows up is going to, like, okay.
I think my friend said, I won't tell anyone. So then
exactly. Right. It's like, they won't know. They're just waiting outside. They have no idea what we're doing in here.
You and me. It's just you and me. And we've been standing here for 30 minutes already. Could have done it by now.
How bad my Portuguese is, I won't be able to tell them anything.
Yes. I tried that too, James says, right. So IRN appointments for residency renewal can only be done via email request. Each IRN office will have its email for appointment request.
So finding that office email, I think I found the office information, but I see now you do so many things and you start getting lost. I don't think that the location information included an email address. So then, all right, where do I find that email address? And that's a whole other round of things. I manage being on the internet. I'm not stupid. I've been doing it for, a good portion of my adult life. But the system here in Portugal throws me almost every single time I have to find something. So
sorry to laugh, but you're not alone.
I know.
If that's any consolation. Here is a pro forma letter.
There you go.
Dear bureaucrat, Carol, I don't know Philomena, what would be the best term of endearment for a bureaucrat? I mean, it would start with Carol, I don't know.
Estimado.
Yes, or your amigo de Sef or something like that. I moved. Please enclosed. Please find the required documents and your address. Sincerely, cumprimentos.
First, you have to prove you are who you are. Then we might consider this request. So you need to send us.
And if I do that for you, I'll have to do it for everybody.
That's right.
By the way. Yeah. Right. Okay. Other interesting challenges. If you do use, the point Hugh was making about the auto checkout, it's not just the cash side. It's to keep people employed rather than having auto checkouts removing a load.
I'm keeping that assistant definitely employed, but I understand that.
Well, keeping human beings prisoners in supermarkets when AI could be doing it, they could be gambling in the fields, as in OL, not LE, gambling. But maybe we'll see. There might be the what's it called? The minimum wage, not the minimum wage, the handout. And people could just be having fun, and robots could be doing that job here.
And there are other factors, like I walk, so I carry my groceries. Yeah. So I have 3 separate bags. I try to put all the heavy stuff in my backpack so I can carry it with my legs, and the lighter stuff in my 2 other bags. So I have to get all that stuff sorted and pack my bag that way. And it takes me 5 minutes after my groceries are all checked. And it's like, I don't want to hold up the next person in line for 5 minutes while I sort my groceries at the end of the register line.
It sounds
That's
like you're
another
making an
reason that I
ascent
do
to
it.
Everest. You need a team of Sherpas by the sound of
There you go.
it. Real
But
life.
I get the point, and I agree with it, actually.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Real life practice where you deal with unexpected situations. Make the most of every opportunity to use your Portuguese. Thanks, Pam. And I'm sure James does that.
Yes,
I always use the auto checkout because nobody tries to sell me lottery tickets there.
Well, that's never happened to me in the regular
No,
checkout.
apparently it's a thing at Pingo. It's true. It's the
Interesting.
plague of the Pingados in downtown Setúbal. Don't know if it's widespread. They always tell me what a great deal it is. Yeah, you're going to win. Maybe. I have recommended a friend. Go to the IMA in Figueira do Foz, because it's a small city compared to Lisbon or Porto. She was seen without we can't say that because now everybody's going to expect that.
This office
Remember
in
what you
Spain has a walk-in service, hence standing in line for an hour and a half. That was first come, first served. Just stand outside the door and wait for your turn. That's what I did. They let me in, and then they said you can't do this without an appointment. So
Wednesday afternoons are good, apparently. Okay, fair enough. That's some great info.
I have to get myself up to Figueira da Foz and tell them I have an Espinho address.
Your reputation has gone further skyward here. Yes, caro or estimado, as in estimado clientes. Vamos embora, a caixa dois. James is right, as always, everybody.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but thank you, Philomena, for your confidence in me.
Very good. I emailed 6 months ago and still no appointment. We are talking about death. We were talking about death and dying. This is the death
my concern.
and
there's a 60-day requirement to not be subjected to fines. So you have 2 months to get it done. So that's another factor. It's like if I was willing to wait 6 months to do the email and 55 phone calls and all the other things to get it done, I would get it done, but I just want to get it done. And then I need to also get my passport renewed. And I'm not sure that I will need my passport to get my address done. So I'm trying to do that after. So
well, good luck.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of factors I'm working through.
T-Duck, the Thunder Duck method has been used by Mel. Still no answer 6 months later. And this character is here. Lord Portuglish is here, everyone, with a nice Andrew, yes. It's time, he says, for my Portuguese passport appointment, which is good luck for that. Did you hear that news, though? And good for you, Andrew. That it may be that the citizenship amount of years you have to be here is being doubled from 5 to 10. Order, he says. Right. Probably
that one is another one to go on top of everything else. It feels
that
like it's
as well
all
as
going to
everything
shit.
else.
Like, okay, now it's going to be another 5 years. I was really counting on having that 5-year thing be done.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. We shall see. It might just be a bit of pre-election political posturing. You have to check which day you can show up. I think it was on a Wednesday afternoon. Thanks, Philomena, for that little tip there about going to a nice day at the seaside, if nothing else, at Figueira da Foz, which was the chosen seaside location, as I discovered with Philomena, of many a Coimbra University student. Right. In the last few minutes of your slot here, James,
let's go to something really pleasant.
Light relief,
like
bird
birds.
droppings. Yes. Now, did you enjoy this as much as I did last week? I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did because it doesn't require me to be an expert on birds. I don't have to be an ornithologist to say, here's some of the birds I've been looking at, and here's what they're called.
I like. Yeah. Okay. So what you got for us this week?
I sent it to you on WhatsApp. That was another little thing I ran into. It's like all of a sudden my phone didn't have my updated photos. Like, what? Okay, but I figured it out. So I managed to get it to you. And I chose this bird, the alveola, I think it is.
Now, is that also not the area around a nipple? Or the thing in the back of your throat? What is it? Okay, let's have a look at what it looks like. It looks nothing like a nipple.
No, it's not areola.
Which would be a nice girl's name as well, wouldn't it?
It's alveola branca.
Okay.
That's the juvenile. Use the other one because people will go, oh yeah, I've seen that one. This one they might go, huh? I'm not sure.
Well, okay. That means I have to find that now. Okay, so where are you likely to see this creature?
On the ground as it is,
Right.
and I just started seeing them, so I see a very different appearance from the juvenile to the adult.
Yes.
I'm assuming, since my birding app just gave me an adult and a juvenile, that the females are also very similar looking. The adult females are also very similar looking to the adult males. Anyway, I see them all over the place. Usually you catch them as they're flitting from one place to another on the grass, and all of a sudden you see all this black and white just sort of flash, and then it lands, and it's the face. Again, the very distinct features. As far as I know, there's no other bird in Portugal that looks like this one. It's very common. It's all over Europe and the United Kingdom. So I'm sure people who live in those places have seen these birds, even if they haven't taken notice. In English, it's called a white-faced wagtail.
A wagtail, of course, and that's
Yes.
because it's got a waggy tail, isn't it? It's when
Yeah,
it lands on the
that's
ground.
another distinguishing feature is when they're, moving around on the grass, pecking out. I think they go for seeds.
Yes.
Their tail just goes flip, 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 while
Yes,
they're
they're
standing on
lovely.
the ground, and
Yep.
that's so.
It
Yeah,
was a
I'm starting with birds that I'm fairly certain most people have seen, whether they've noticed them or not. They've seen
yes.
them.
Yeah.
And this one, it was one of the first birds I noticed because of all the things I just said, very distinguishing features.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to miss that black and white face with the black
It's
eye
really,
in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's waggy tail characteristic as well. Yes.
And there's a lot of contrast in that tail, similar to the wing there. But so when they flip it, they kind of spread it out, and there's just lots of, you just see sort of black and white flashes. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Good choice, sir. Good choice. So in Portuguese, alveola,
Viola.
alveola. Accents are your friend.
branca.
I mentioned you when I was talking to Philomena this weekend. Accents are your friend, because I mispronounced the pastry dessert that we had at our lunch yesterday, organized by Ben Austin, which was excellent. And I called it the tentugal, and it's the tentugal because the accent is on the U there. There's the juvenile, as you say, and there is the bird most people are familiar with. My daughter actually calls that the Julia bird for some reason. She's got an Auntie Julia, and ever since she was little, she called that the Julia bird. But it is what's the official title of it in English?
White-faced wagtail.
Wagtail. Okay. Well, we will.
English names are usually the name of the person who first identified them in English,
Yes,
or something that's incredibly obvious.
Yes, the farting brass finch or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. It's got a white face and it wheels its tail. Let's call it a white-faced wagtail. That'll do it.
Very straightforward. And Gary, when he was watching last week, was talking about his illustrated bird guide, Collins, possibly, British publisher, that he had since being a boy. I suspect he's not the only one to have one of those lovely illustrated hardback books that many kids had from our generation and treasured to this day. Okay, so looking forward to Bird of the Week again next week. You have a great week, James. Anything else you want to share with us before you go?
No, just a brief apology for being such a downer on the bureaucratic stuff, but you asked, and it just sort of came up, and it's like, whoa.
No, it's all right. We'd already been talking about death and dying. We set the bar quite low this morning, so it was absolutely fine.
Yes, and related to that, I can easily find my gratitude and get to a more peaceful state. Hey, I'm as far as I know, I'm not dead. We're all dying, but I'm healthy, so yay.
Yes. You. Way to go. All right. We'll keep it up, by the way.
Thank you. I intend to, yes.
Right. We hope to see you on this screen next week, mate. Okay, all the best.
Thanks so much.
All right. Ciao. See you,
My
mate.
pleasure. Bye.
There he goes. A wagtail of a man. The white-faced wagtail. That's our bird of the week here on Good Morning Portugal. Thank you for videos and pictures that have been coming in. Before I talk a little bit more about our new endeavor, resources for the rest of your life. That's what the Portugal Club will be all about. And actually got a lovely map of the Portugal Club. It's fantastic. The school have just created a way of showing you where your community live around the world. Sorry, I have to go and be a productive member of society, Baginos. Yeah, whatever. Believe that you believe anything. Probably off for a quick cafe con chorino, I suspect, as well. Also, there's rumours that passports will change from 5 to 10-year validity as well. Thank you for that gossip, political, societal gossip this morning. Thank you very much, Andrew, for popping in. Antonio F is here now. Bom dia a todos. Thank you. Bom dia igualmente. Tudo bem? Como estás? Antonio, there's a bird I see a lot around here with a yellow underside. Don't know the name. Ooh. I'm not sure what that is. I think I know what you mean, but I don't know the name of it. Yes, and it's a delight, isn't it, when you first move to Portugal to see all these birds that are exotic in comparison with what we're used to. Let's have a couple of videos before we return then to this whole idea of preparedness here in Portugal. And I'll read you a little bit of, if not all, of my article in the Portugal Resident this week. A lovely couple of videos here. Sarah, I do assume this is for public sharing here. I thought you'd enjoy this. My parish has a bunch of Angolan women, many of whom don't know how to ride a bike. What? My lovely used Brompton turns out to be a great learning bike. This is my friend Suzanne on her very first ride ever. Pure joy. How amazing! Teaching grown-ups to cycle. We're going to go first to Porto de Mos for the Palm Sunday flowers, and yes, we'll come back to that. What a lovely thing to share. Thank you, Sarah, for that. Porto de Mos first, courtesy of Pam Smith, who's on the screen there, talking about the bird with the yellow underside. Does anybody know what that is? Oh, that was very quick. Let me do that again then. That's amazing. Just one of those would be phenomenal, would they not? But it's a whole street of such mandala-esque artistry there in anticipation of Palm Sunday, I believe. Right, a little bit of cycling then. This is Sarah's cycling proficiency class in Tudo. That's some nice sibilance and alliteration there before we go back to Portugal Preparedness Week. That is delightful and pure joy. I think those of us, and there's probably most of us here, who learnt to ride a bike a few years ago. I didn't learn till I was, I think, in my early teenage years, actually, because of the kind of childhood I had. Not looking for sympathy. It was just the way the cookie crumbled meant that I didn't learn till I was I think quite old. But not compared to Suzanne there. I think I must have been, I don't know, 10 or 11 maybe, and taught myself. And I remember that moment where you get your feet off the ground and it starts moving forward and you're not falling off anymore. And yes, you can let out a woo as you disappear down the street like Suzanne did there. Great. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing that with us. Right. On my article this week, then, we'll have a week talking about various aspects of preparedness. And we'll probably use Maslow's hierarchy of needs to help us navigate our way through this topic. Being prepared, reducing friction in life. I think it's a good thing to be talking about. She's 28, the lady who learned to ride a bike there, Angolan Suzanne. They're fantastic. Keep up that great work. Yes, that's the other thing that occurs to you, isn't it? When you've got the hang of it, it's like, oh, how do I stop or turn? Very good. That's pretty good for a first attempt on a bike. How long did that take? And I'm sure you're a very patient and excellent teacher. For Suzanne there. Right. Let me bring onto the screen then my article this week. And I hope to bring it off the page a little bit rather than just, it's like having a PowerPoint, isn't it? Where someone puts the slides up and then reads it to you. I'll try and make it a little bit more interesting than that. But it is part of the sort of preface to the discussions we'll be having this week. And I would like to talk about things like, going back to the EU and the suggestions for being prepared for anything at the moment. Probably it's we've talked about this before, haven't we? Prepping, which I think can have quite a sort of dismal connotation, but it's a good idea. And I think T-Duck, you may have mentioned this to me. Be hope for the best and prepare for the worst when we've had such conversations. And there is another aspect to this from Maya Angelou as well. So lots of things converging that have, as I said earlier on, that have caused me to create and have this conversation. And this is currently it refers back to that 1st of April prank. And it is this week, hoping for the best, planning for the worst, as I just said there, and something else, okay, which I'll reveal as we read this. Some realised, some didn't, so let me clear that up right now. My April the 1st effort, more positivity in Portuguese politics. And some people are actually quite sad that wasn't true, as it turned out. That's published in the Resident there. There is a link to it, as you can see on the screen. If you just search Munson in the Portugal Resident search box, you'll see this and all my other articles. Had some delighted by the idea of an upbeat political force, which, in my fantasy world at least, suggested that ahead of our latest election, the one that's coming up in May, this is a remarkable moment and opportunity for the Portuguese people to rise up, stop struggling, and live lives, wonderful lives in our beautiful country. Furthermore, I add here, the idea that the Partido Positividade de Portugal was urging people to focus on peace, love, and happiness, such that it might become their own as well as the collective reality, offered a sudden and joyous, if only brief, respite from the usually bitter and cynical norm in politics, right? I'm sorry, not sorry, if your optimistic bubble got burst earlier this week on rumbling my well-intentioned prank, or even if the penny just dropped in these last few seconds. Yes, some of you might not have realized to this day that it was a prank on April the 1st, realizing the truth about my annual 1st day of April effort. But, and it's a big but, while it may be disappointing to reveal that there is no PPP savior in the political landscape, I sincerely ask you not to give up either humor or hope. Should that be neither humor nor hope? It's at times like these that we need both, and in generous measure. And you can count me in on both departments there of humor and hope as we walk the road of life together, not only on these pages, as I'm saying there in the Portugal Resident, but here at GMP HQ. Incidentally, there's another H, which I'll add here to make a holy trinity of an action plan, given that PPP's preparedness prescription, launched simultaneously with the bogus party, was, although excellent, not true or probably sustainable. The survival kit suggestion was prompted by my sense that we are being encouraged, perhaps forced, to plan for the worst. Did you see the European Commissioner for Crisis Management? That would be Haja Labib urging us to be ready for anything whilst rejecting scenarios at the same time. And I find myself in this situation, talking about certain things. It's like, no, I'm not meaning to be negative or alarmist or dark about this. It's just a useful conversation to have. So they were doing that too at the EC, to be fair, whilst rejecting scenarios of alarmism and panic. A well-prepared citizen, the EU suggests. Then this, I do have an issue with this. Shortwave radio, I still don't get that. Maybe you use your shortwave radio to bludgeon zombies to death with as they come to your door. Only kidding. A well-prepared citizen, the EU suggests, should have enough emergency supplies at home, including water and tinned food to last at least 3 days, a torch. I mean, these are good things to have, right? In the event of many things that can happen, wildfire possibly, and loss of grid and supply, earthquake, things that can possibly happen. It's good to have these sorts of supplies, and I think we should have a little conversation about this. And how much water, for example, how much water do you think is recommended? And what sort of tinned foods would you have in your larder for such a 72-hour situation? Or maybe you plan for longer than that, I don't know. And a first aid kit as well, but that's good advice anyway, isn't it, to have a first aid kit at home? A straw poll among friends and family will no doubt flush out the preppers and ostriches in your world. Preppers, obviously, the sort of conspiracy theorist style people, not literally wearing a tinfoil hat, but maybe having a little bit of aluminum ready as well as part of their kit. And the ostriches are obviously just sticking their head with no tinfoil hat on it into the ground and ignoring the situation and just dealing with it should it arise. No judgment on anybody. These are just the archetypes, aren't they? And really, the archetype I'm perhaps suggesting and highlighting is the Buddha archetype in terms of this sort of stuff. So neither the prepper gloom and doom type or the ostrich who doesn't want to talk about it at all, but someone who sort of takes a calm look at it and transcends the situation and reduces the friction and just makes some practical arrangements and has some conversations, constructive conversations, as we're hoping to do this week. With most finding themselves somewhere in the middle, of course, between the prepper and the ostrich, having pondered plans most likely for wildfire evacuation in Portugal, possibly earthquake response, and some up to speed with the EU's darkest and most dire suggestions for the inflamed situations. This is my beef with the EU. I think, it's like, okay, we're going to stir up some serious warmongering. Oh, we better get people prepared for that, for the consequences of our saber rattling. What I struggle with, along with their blatant murderous warmongering, as I've put it in print here, is a seemingly total preoccupation with fear when it comes to how things might be, that has no vision of the peace and happiness that I fantasized about in the satirical scribbling that welcomed in this month of April. The EU's guidance seems to concern itself only with gloom and doom, and I, for one, think we might set our sights and expectations a little higher. Bear with me then for that. That's the job of the government, you might say, of course, to protect and defend us. So it would be a bit gloomy and doomy. Happiness and well-being are the responsibility of the individual. And in a less utopian, more pragmatic mood, who would disagree with that? Which, of course, brings me back to hope, humor, and the third H of my trio for transcending these testing times. Hope alone, of course, has its limitations, perhaps best characterized as hopium. Have you heard of that? That was something Margaret Wheatley brought to my attention. She tells us we should liberate ourselves from hopium, and because it never gives us the energy and motivation we need to contribute and persevere, she says. As we free ourselves from the cycle of hope and fear, we don't become useless, hopeless people. Instead, we become people who can see clearly how to contribute in meaningful ways. Now you're talking. We discover work that makes a difference. We contribute meaningfully within our sphere of influence to a person, a community, a local cause. Humor too, whilst arguably the best medicine, again, can't work alone in helping us. We do like a bit of humor here, don't we? But alone, it can't help us rise above the challenges on a practical level. If we're too busy laughing, basically, we're not going to be much use. Even if it does offer a transient mental or spiritual balm, as I hoped my April Fool would, what's needed is the third H that I will commend today, and that's hands on. Now, I go on to say in this article, I'm not, by the way, calling for a revolution of any kind of conflict or war here, despite the fashionableness of such rhetoric. There's a lot of warmongers around at the moment, aren't there? People you didn't expect to be, honestly. The hands I speak of are to be placed firmly and mainly on the tillers of our own lives, of our families' lives and our community life. Not those in other lands with whom we have interfered with for far too long already. Bring it back, bring it home. And worthy of mention, I thought here, was Maya Angelou's evergreen and timely angle, which encourages a disposition that is hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, and being unsurprised. Now, those of us of a certain age, I guess, are becoming increasingly unsurprised by anything in between the best and the worst. And I suggest we're there, are we not? The perineum of unsurprise, I've called it, a drift between the best and the worst, with that COVID lockdown energy in the air again, with disbelief and incredulity, the new normal of our daily reality. Now, what I'll say is, I'll just go to the last paragraph here, last couple of paragraphs, and I'll mention how this subject came up and all the formation of this sort of preparedness week here. Another way of looking at this might be to ask that age-old question, where does hope abide? Hope in the mind, I'll put it to you, is doomed with its dismal tendencies and an obsession with the wrongs of the past and the fears of the future. Hope in the heart, however, as I beat my chest, has us see what and who is in front of us in the here and now, which is all we ever really have, the here and now. Those Shaker words, put your hands to work and your hearts to God, have never appealed and called to me so much. Do you think, this is a question I'll leave you with today as we come up to 9 o'clock, do you think the time has come to work towards what we want and not think constantly about what we fear? Let me just say that again as I say goodbye to you today and welcome in GMP Preparedness Week, Portugal Preparedness Week. Do you think the time has come to work towards, to put our efforts into what we want, what we positively envision, rather than think constantly about what we fear, which is what, of course, some of the influences in our society I think, are urging us, maybe even forcing us to do. Yes, fear is control, says Hugh there. A more muted possibility. Oh, okay. There's talk of the bird and the app for finding birds. I only come by on Sundays to teach biking because I'm working, says Sarah. So this was her third Sunday trying. Excellent, Suzanne. Well done to you. And I remember my first attempt on a bike, says Joao Ernesto. It was woohoo for 10 seconds until I rode it straight into a garage door. Happy memories. It never did us any harm, did it? Being goring ourselves on garage door handles and such like that. And I'm guessing you didn't have a helmet on back in those days when you were 10. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, everybody. And a lovely couple of pictures, actually, from the Bartons, who are visiting Trinity, I believe, in Dublin. Look at that. A lovely day in Dublin. I think maybe that was this morning. It could have been over the weekend. And, of course, look at that. When you're 18 and you're looking for a university, why wouldn't you be trying a nice pint of Guinness there? And a lovely vision of our future. I'll come back to my final words there. I think it's really important that we think about and invest in our vision for the future, for the likes of our lovely young Gumper on the left there, and hi Karen too. Yes, let's stop all this preoccupation with fear and doom and gloom and plan for a bright and wonderful future. Great morning show. Cheers, Hugh. And cheers. Yes, cheers to you too as well there, Kat and Karen. I really like and recommend the Merlin app for IDing the birds. Yes, of course. Whatever happens, I suggest the birds will still be singing and the children crashing their bikes into the nearest garage door. Have a great day. We'll talk more tomorrow. All the best to you. Bye.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl brings the